Hello guys, welcome to Subcode, and today we are looking at another cup of code. Welcome back to the channel. If you're a subscriber, we always love having you around, and if you're new, please do like and subscribe because here we sip code all day long. So today we'll be looking at Angular, and we are looking at front end technology. Basically, we want to see how we can integrate with the backend, or how we can do our authorization in Angular and see our application being functional just as we have here. So today I'll be using the Spring Bank microservice that we created on Spring Boot. So if you are a subscriber, you would have seen on the previous videos where I go through these endpoints here for the Spring Bank and basically how we do authorization or authentication using JWT. I went through that at length, and I will give you the video on JWT authentication in the description down below, so you can go have a look at that as well and understand how this entire application came about. So having said that, we want to look at the front end today and see how we can make use of Angular to have a user-facing um, interface. So basically, we want to start on the logout. So when the user comes to the application, they will basically be faced with this user interface or front end right here, and this look and feel. I just wanted to show you guys that you can also use JWT schools for quick form setup, sign up, checkout, contacts, and all of that. So I just used JWT schools. It's not a sponsored, it's nothing like that. This is just what I used to create such a login form, and you can register here if you want, and I use the same type of a form to register users. So we'll see this just now, and we can go back to login, and we can log in as we want. So let's run through the microservice at the back end. So essentially what we want to do, the first things first, is to register a user. Just as we have here, we pass these fields and then we're able to register a user. And once the user is registered, we will be able to log into the user, and we pass in the username and password. And once the user has authenticated, they will get a JWT token here and a refresh token as well. And then once they have that, we can be able to use the other endpoints, such as checking the user's profile. Here we can get the user details, is essentially the identity number, first name, last name, email, mobile, and all these details. We can get them over there. And then we can also check if the user is authenticated or not. If you want to flag such a user that is still valid or invalid, and then you can use that. And once we have that, once the user is registered and all these are in place, we want to open an account. So they can open a savings account or a current account, and they can deposit amount into the account when they are opening it. That will still be fine. And then we also have a deposit here where a user can deposit funds and also be able to withdraw funds when they want to, and also make transfers from one account into the next account. So from account is current, to account is savings, amount is 10,000. So basically that's what we have, and then you can also check the balance like that. So essentially this is what we have, and we can start looking at how we can integrate with this API in Angular. So let's go through the code base right here. So the first things first that I want to take you through is essentially the setup. So if you look at the project breakdown, we have dashboard, which is what we see after our login here. Let's just log in quickly so that you can see our dashboard right here. Let's go to login. I'll be using this user, so let's just use this user details. That's fine, and that's fine. And now let's just log in quickly. So once we log in right here, we see the user, about me, photo of me, then banker do. Let's see the user profile. So the profile is banker do, as you can see right here. And now we have a current account, and we also have a savings account with 1,000 um, is the amount there. So this is the dashboard that you can see, and we can see the user details as from the back end, as we can see right there. So that's fine. And now let's go through what our Angular does in terms of delivering that for us. So first things first is once you create your Angular application, obviously you'd have the default app component that will be given unto you. And then on the app component, the HTML, we just define the router outlet where all our components will be displayed on the DOM of our HTML, and then users can interact with it. So we just pass in the router outlet, and that's it right there. And then we also want to have some routing over here on our app module. So our routes are very simple. We just have the default route, which points to the login component, and we also have the login path that also points to the login. And then we have the register, which points to registration component, and then we have the dashboard, and that basically gives us the dashboard. And as you can see here, this dashboard routes is actually, it has an auth guard, which the authentication guard checks if the user is authenticated or not. If they are authenticated, then we can activate this route. If they are not, then this route is inactive. So basically, if I try to go to dashboard whilst I'm logged out, I won't be allowed into the application. So let's just see that now. Let's just say dashboard here, dashboard, let's go there. As you can see, it doesn't even try to go anywhere. It doesn't reroute. It just gets lost like that. So now if we log back in using this guy's details, just take this user, and let's just go to password 123. Let's get in. So now we are there, and say we change the route to something else, and let's go back to that. And now let's go back to dashboard. You see, now it allows us to go back in because we are not logged out. We just rerouted to a different route. So that's basically it. But if I click on log out, and then I come back as banker 201 and password 123. So if I log out again and try to go to dashboard, let's just do that. Now you can see it doesn't even take me to dashboard. It just stays on the route, in the root path. So that's what we have there, and then we will see this in action shortly. So once that is set up, our paths have been set up like that on our app routing, and our auth guard is essentially nothing complex there. So let me just show you the authentication guard. Let's just go there so that you can see what happens there. So our authentication guard implements can activate, and we say on the can activate function, we have the route, active route snapshot, and the state of the route. And then we just have a check in there to say if we do have the token, if the token is available, just make sure that you return false, which means or this if the token is null or it's empty. So if we don't have the authentication token, that means this route is actually inactive. We don't want it to be accessible. But otherwise, just return true, which means this route is actually active and users can be able to use it. So also you can add more logic here just to make sure that not only is the token available, but it's valid and the user is actually authenticated. So in this case, you can basically use this endpoint right here, which is user authenticated. So you can call that service is authenticated. Once you get that response, then you can pass in that check here to return a false. And then if the user is not authenticated, just return a false. If they are authenticated, then return true. And that's basically what the auth guard does. It guards on all your routes or the routes that you define what card that you want over there. And also you can have a role or an authorization card that is much more specific to the roles that users have. But for now, we just want to keep it simple and just showcase how you can get it done. So this is just the auth card. That is one thing that we need to have if you are creating an enterprise application in Angular. So that's the auth card, nothing complex, keep it short and sweet. And the next thing is, let's look at the services that we need to have because we interact with the backend. So how do we interact with the backend? Let's go to the login, and we go to login HTML. And the login HTML is a basic form, and it has an ng submit. On submit, that's the action that will be kicked in on our Angular. And then we have a ng model of our authentication request. So that's the username, and basically this is the username that we have. And then here we just have the password, and that's the password right there. So the username and the password, we take that from the form and we pass into on submit. So let's see what on submit has on our TS file, and let's go to that site. And if you look at this class here, nothing complex, generic login component, and we only have an authentication request. And our authentication request, if you go to the interface itself, we have an interface with username and password, and that's basically how simple that is. And then we just set it to an empty object right here, and we just go and then we continue with our constructor, where we then say authentication service and also our router as well, because after authentication we want to reroute to the dashboard once the login is valid. So let's see what we have on submit. So our on submit actually will then call in the authentication service.login, and we pass in the authentication request, and we subscribe that, and we say in the event of in our next event where we expect a response right here, we want to check the response data, and we want to set the token and the refresh token on our local storage, and then we want to reroute and navigate to dashboard. So that's what we essentially have right here, simple as that. But if the login failed, then we will have a login failed alert, which is a pop-up, which is uses the default HTML pop-up. So that's nothing really interesting here. So actually what we want to do here is not just check the data, but we want to check if there's a token there. So that should be fine. And if we do have the token, then set the token and then redirect. If we don't have the token, just go login failed. So that's what we want to check over there. And let's just go back to our front end. Let's see this in our browser. Let's see. Okay, it's refreshing the page. That's fine. Then let's do that. Let's do that. So login failed because we do not have the token on our response right here. So that is fine, and it expected the token, and that's not what we have on a failed login. So obviously we can just change this message right here, and we will just say response dot data. That would be much more meaningful, so that we see what message comes back from the API itself. So let's just wait for it. It's just building now, and let's see what message we have over there. Let's just do that. Okay, let's just do that. Some garbage stuff. All right, invalid credentials. Please check details and try again. All right, so now our API is telling us exactly what the issue is. Let's try again. Invalid credentials. Please try again. Please check details and try again. Right, cool. So that's much better. And then we can basically try our banker to 1, and we can try password 1, 2, 3. Let's just do that, and now we should be logged in. Boom. So that's what we have. We have our user, and it works as we expected. So that looks good. Then the next thing is, so on submit basically calls an API. So let's check what API is being called over here on the login. So if we go there, you will see that on login, what we have is an HTTP client right here. So HTTP client, you need to also define the HTTP client within, cancel that. You need to define that in the app modules right here. So the HTTP client is very important, because if it's not here, then you won't be able to use the functions, or it won't actually kick off anything until you have it on your app module over there. So we have the providers, which is the HTTP client, and we have the imports, which is the HTTP client module, so that we're able to kick off any HTTP client methods. Those are the two that we will need, the HTTP client and the module, and that's it. Then we go back to our login, our authentication service. That's where we were at, and basically our login takes in the authentication request, which is the username and password, and this is a post, and that post has the environment.base base URL, which is the one that we use here, HTTP localhost 8080. Then we want to go to user, authenticate, and basically that's what we have. And then we pass in the body with the username and password, and then the response, we want the response to be a service response. So if you look at the service response itself, it's an interface, there's a timestamp, message, status, and data, and this can also be nullable. So those question marks are just, it can be null or empty. So that's what that's for. And basically, once we have the service response, we want to handle it the way that we want on our component level. So we just want to return this, nothing fancy. And once the response is sent back to us, we come back to our component and we subscribe to that particular request, and then we do all the magic that we want to do within there. So essentially for login, this is what we have. And as you can see here, basically we set the tokens and then we redirect and nothing else. So everything else is just the back end, which is Spring Boot, as we have seen over here. And basically we are handling all the exceptions, as you can see over here. If the user is invalid or whatever, we handle the exception and we send back the details to the user. So that's that for the login. Once the tokens are set on our local storage, let me just show you the tokens now. Let me just anchor to 1 and password 123. Let me just show you the tokens right now. Let's do that. Let's just see application. All right. So we have a token and we have a refresh token. So those are in the local storage that we have. And then if I log out, you'll see that it clears this, which means we are not valid or we're not authenticated, and essentially we cannot do anything in the application except to log in or to register. That's basically it. So right now we are done with the login. I think the next big thing is, or let's just log in one more time so that you can see this. 1, 2, 3, and we have the token, we have the refresh token set again, and all the user details. So that's fine. And then now we are done with the login. That's all it does. And the next big thing is the registration. So so let's go to registration. What's my registration? Registration right here. Yes. Oh, it's super quick. All right, so basically this is basic HTML. I use basic HTML just to set up this ASAP, and also to show that you can use basic HTML and check examples with JWT schools and see how they have done it, and how you can also learn from them, and also be on a quick up and running application with a front end in a much quicker way. So this is the registration HTML, and we basically have the entity number, first name, last name, email address, mobile number, username, password, and confirm password. So this one is also ng submit on submit. Let's check the on submit what that does for us. So basically we're still calling the authentication service, and we also have the router service right there, and we have a registration request which we also set to null, and it has all the registration fields as we expect on our API over here. So it's expecting a body that looks like this with all these fields right here. So that's what we have, and we also have a confirm password, and I'll show you why I've set this up like this, so that you don't have to worry about adding a confirm password that you're not even going to use. So the confirm password is basically the confirm password. If it's not equals to the password that we actually set upon registration, then we'll say password does not match, then nothing happens there, and then once that's sorted, then everything will go through to the registration API. And let's just see here, let me go to login. Actually, I'm not supposed to even call the login, I'm supposed to call the register over here, which is that. So let's just set that and save it like that. So now we are going to register. Let me just log out here. Right, so let's go to register, and we want the entity number. Let's just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, 8, 7, 6, 0, 0. So it is the entity number. Then we're going to say YouTuber 1, 2, 3. Now let's just say YouTuber Do, YouTuber Do at springbank.com. Let's just do that. And we are just gonna say let's say 27 555 432 whatever number comes to mind. So obviously all of these we can add some validations check just to make sure that everything is as we expect, but for now I'll just set up this so that we can be up and running. So this will be YouTuber 123, and we just say password 1, and we just say QWERTY1. So that is the confirm password. So the password here is password 1, this one is QWERTY, then we say submit. Password does not match, so let's just address that quickly. We want to say password 1, so this is YouTuber 123, then we say submit, YouTuber 123. Boom, now we are redirected to our login here. So register is fine, then we redirected to our login as we expect. So now let's do a login with YouTuber 123, and let's just do password 1, and let's log in. Boom. So now this guy has logged in. What we want to do is to check their details. Why the catch? Why the catch? Why the catch? Why the catch? Let's see here. Let's just refresh this guy. And let me just check those details here in our API. Let's say login, and I want to check YouTuber 123. Let's just do password 1 and submit, and I want to check the details here. Let's just do that. Let's save this guy and let's do profile and send that. I think I know why. I think I know why. That is because on my security principle, I did something that I shouldn't. I did something that I should not, which is that, and I should not be doing that. I should not be doing that. I can, let me just remove that and remove that. Because then if this is a singleton, what it will do is it will only set up the user that was logged in at first and no one else, which is crap, which is crap, which is crap. Right. So now it's giving us the user that we expected. And because of that slight mistake here of expecting it to be a singleton, we don't want it to be a singleton. We want to have a new instance because we want every user to get their own details. So that's what we expect right there. And we can come back here, log out, and come back and say YouTuber 123, then we say password 1, and let's see this guy. So accounts, nothing here, because YouTuber though does not have any account as yet. So I didn't add that over here. I didn't add the open account endpoint. So let's just do that quickly using the API. So this guy is available here, so that's fine. So now I'm gonna say open an account, and the account that I want to open is, let's just say current account, and we want to deposit let's say 500, and we say send. Entity has an account already, that is not right. Let's just say, oh, this is the entity. We need to check YouTuber entity number. The YouTuber entity number is that, so let's just change the entity number here to be YouTuber, and let's just do that. And that's amount 500, current account. So now let's check balance for current account, and let's just say send that. Let's see. So this guy has 0. Yeah, when you open current account, you don't deposit anything. So you only deposit when you open a savings account. So let's check savings. So savings is, it won't allow us to create savings account. Minimum deposit expected 1,000. So that one is 1,000. So let's open that one and let's see. So account successfully created. So now if we go and deposit into current account, let's just deposit 500. Let's do that, and it will deposit that. Now let's check the balance. It should be 500. So balance is 500 for current account. So that's fine. And the only rule here is for a current account can be 0, but for the savings account, it needs to be 1,000, whatever currency that you want. Basically, that's what we have, and everything looks good. And let's see. Now we can go back to the front end. What we can do is just to refresh here, and we see current account 500, overdraft is 100,000, and savings, the amount is 1,000. So if we now come back to withdraw, and let's see this, let's withdraw, let's say 150, let's say send, funds processed successfully, and let's check the, just refresh here. So now we have 350 on our account. So basically the functions that I'm doing here for the bank, I still need to add over here on our front end, but now we've seen that our login and registration works as we expect. So we're able to log in and we're able to register. And now let's see what else are we missing on our authentication for an Angular application. So we've registered, everything went through successfully, and we're happy with that. And if we go to our register right here, it's also a post, and what it does is user register, then we pass in the registration request, and everything will be fine over there. And now the other thing is for all our requests, so the dashboard, now that we're done with login and registration, the dashboard is one critical issue where you will see what happens over there. So over here, I just have a number of the profile response, first name, last name. These are fields that I get from the API, from the profile endpoint. And then I also have the tables where I have account, balance, and overdraft, and also the savings response, account, and balance. That's basically what I have there for now, just to keep it short and sweet. It's nothing complicated over here. So now let me show you what we do in the back um, here on the TS file. So I have a dashboard response, which can be anything, and it's just an empty object. And then I also have savings response, which can be anything, and it's an empty object. And also I have profile response, which can be anything, and it's an empty object over there. So now I have entity account service. So that service is right here. We're gonna see it now. So we have entity account service, and we have the router over there. And then on init, we just call dashboard, and we call profile. And let's see which endpoints we call over here. So we make calls to 3 APIs. Or basically, we make 3 API calls to the balance for the current account, and then balance for the savings account. So if you go to this service over here, so entity account service has an HTTP client, and what we do is a get for the account balance, and the account type that we send is the current account or the savings account, and we get the balance over there. Then the profile is just the base URL, which is that localhost 8080, and then /user, then we give us the user details, just as we can see over here, and we can basically make use of the details as we want right here. So basically that's what we have, and we are basically good for dashboard. It's just get, nothing posted over there. And both of these, we just call the current account and we call the savings account on dashboard, and then we are able to display the current account over here and display the savings account over here. So the reason I do it like this is to show that you can call multiple APIs just to set up the dashboard details that you need, and but also you can in your backend right here set up a, let's say we come over here and we want to say let's just copy this method right here. We can just add a get, and what we do is just say dashboard like that. Let me just remove that dashboard like that. So then these will essentially give us just say get dashboard user. So basically this endpoint right here will not just give us like the user that we have currently, but it will give us the dashboard payload as we expect it to to give us. So we don't want to make 50,000 calls. We can just make call to one API and it gives us back the dashboard payload, and we can use the payload to then populate all the fields that we need on the dashboard right here, and only make a few calls to other dependencies like the username and other smaller endpoints that we might have within our dashboard right there. So for now, I'm just showing you that we have we are making use of these particular two API calls, and then the profile API call right here, which is a get, which is the profile user right here, which is just a get. So nothing fancy. Also, the profile is just a get, and it gives us the profile details like we have seen over there. And now the last part is the log out, which we just do a local storage to clear, and we route back to login and nothing else. So there's no call, nothing that happens there. We just say local storage clear, and then we navigate back to login, and then we know that this user is not authenticated. Like we can log out, and then now when we go back to Banker 201 with password 123, enter. So now we get Banker Do, and we still see his details right here. So that catch was basically the security principle that I used in the backend, like you saw. And now that has been resolved, we are able to say YouTuber1, and we say password. Let's just say password1. Yeah, password123. What was that YouTuber? YouTuber what? Let me see. YouTuber. YouTuber123. YouTuber123 and password1. Right. So let's submit that, and now we see YouTuber Do, and the amount is 350, overdraft, and that and that. So basically, now I just need to add these endpoints: deposit, withdraw, transfer, and all of that. So for now, we'll just have it at this point. And the one other thing that I wanted to share with you guys is the interceptors. So basically, the dashboard, what you will see on these endpoints, none of these endpoints will be able, you will be able to make a call if you're not authorized. So now let's see what the interceptors do. So our interceptors are here, and they take care of giving our request the JWT token that we get from our login. So when we set the token on the local storage, what our interceptor does, let me just show you here. So once we're authenticated, every request will be intercepted. And let me just explain this. So this is authentication interceptor, and it implements an HTTP interceptor. There's nothing that we need on the constructor, but also you can pass in a service here that checks if the user is authenticated. So you can call this API here, which is authenticated. If you call this API, and then you will use that service to check over here. Let's say we pass in authentication service. Let's just say private authentication service, and then we say authentication service, like that. So now, instead of checking the local storage for a token, we would rather just say this dot authentication service dot, then we'll have like is authenticated, then that particular service will then tell the server that this is what we have or not. So that will still be fine, and even that particular service call will be intercepted, and then it will add just these these header parameters that we're about to see now. So let me show you. So the intercept function, it will take in the request, which could be anything really, and it will have a next, which is the HTTP handle to handle that particular request and do the transformation that we wanted to do. So obviously it's observable. And then what we do inside this particular function intercept is if the token is null or it's empty, which means we don't have the token, then the request, the clone, we just set the generic headers like that. We set all the generic headers like that with no authorization. And then else, if we do have the token and it's available for us to use, we want to clone the request, set these headers, the generic ones, and on top of that, add the bearer token, which is the JWT token, as we got from the server when we were logging in. And you will see here, I just do a console log intercepted, and if I go back to our browser and just do an F12 right here and go to the console, you will see intercepted, intercepted, intercepted. So depending on how many times I do come back to the dashboard, it will tell me each time when it intercepts. So intercept, intercept, intercept. So you will see all of that all the time, and this is basically what it does. So every API call, it will intercept and add these headers before sending the request through. And basically this is also where if you have a response, you can also have an interceptor to handle the response, how you want it to be dealt with, and all of those. And basically this is what we have on our interceptor, and this is very important so that your application works the way that you expect it to work, and it's also up there in terms of standard. So I think for now this is where we can end it. I've shown you basically the services that you can have to call your APIs, and I've shown you registration, I've shown you the models, how you can set those up, and I've shown you login, I've shown you the interceptor that we just discussed right now. So the interceptor, the other thing, oh, this is very important. This is very important. So once this is set up or the request has been transformed, you want to pass it to the next handle, which will handle the request with the new transformation parameters that you just added. And then the last part is this interceptor, you need to tell it that the interceptor provider, and you can also allow multiple interceptors in your application. So you have a provide HTTP interceptors, and the class that is an interceptor is the authentication interceptor. And then the multiple interceptors, do we want that? Yes, we want that. So we can just set that to true, so which means we can have more interceptors that we want. So these are authentication interceptor provider. We need to define it in the module, not just the app module, but the module where that particular interceptor is, or where you want to use that interceptor. So basically here in the providers, we need to pass in the authentication interceptor provider, and that basically will take care of the rest. So we know that the interceptor is available globally, and it can be used by our application as and when we want to intercept any HTTP call. And we've seen the authentication guard to block certain routes on our application. If the user is not authenticated, they cannot access that particular route until they are authenticated. And then you can also have an authorization guard to say, does this user have this role? If they do, yes, continue. If they don't, no, block them. And basically the dashboard. And this is how far I am with the application, guys. And the one other thing that I would need to add now is accounts and also profile. Let me just go back because I'm still logged in. Also profile, I need to add that, but it's nothing big. I just wanted to show you how you can set this up quickly to authenticate your your Angular application and using an API to integrate with that particular microservice and use it in your application. And the interesting part also is I didn't even use Materialize for my Angular front end stuff. I just used basic HTML that you can also employ if you do not understand material as yet. So you can just use basic HTML and use that for now. And then as you grow and as the channel grows, you will see more similar web applications that will be actually using Angular material, and much more nice look and feel that we can employ. So the next version of this application is where you can actually transact with this particular account and transact with this particular account as well, and see more functionality on it. I just wanted you to show you the authentication and the authorization side of it for now. That's how I am, and I've completed the login, logout, and registration together. I hope that you do like and subscribe, and we become one family and we continue to sip code as always. And for now, cheers.